Get this thing right. Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here today with Mr. David Fairbairn of Fairbairn Inspection in Vancouver. He's Vancouver's mold expert and a fantastic home inspector. How are you doing today, David?
Hey, I'm great, Mark, considering I'm in a crawl space.
So we're broadcasting right from someone's crawl space. We're going to talk about the problems with polybutylene piping. What's the deal?
So I'm glad we're in a crawl space today, Mark, because this is a great opportunity for us to see. I wanted to show you exactly what it looks like and some of the problems with it. So if you're not familiar with polybutylene pipes, it's a gray plastic pipe that was extremely popular back in the 80s and the first half of the 90s, particularly in our area in Vancouver. You see a lot of these in homes built anytime after 1980. So what I'd like to do is sort of go through the pros and cons of it and what to expect if you're buying a house that has polybutylene pipe in it. And I don't feel like saying polybutylene every time, so I'm going to say PolyB. That's sort of the name everybody refers to it by. So we're talking about PolyB pipes. So what we've got here is we've got a house that's built in 1985. And if you look, we've got some gray plastic pipes here in the crawl space. These are polybutylene plastic. This was introduced, it was invented in 1978. So any house after 1978 could have it. It largely replaced copper for most homes where cost was an issue and ease of installation. PolyB was supposed to be the next big thing, and the reason they like it is there's no soldering involved. You can just assemble it. It's very easy to put together on site. And the big thing here is that it's flexible. Now, when you're dealing with plastic pipe, you can bend it around different angles, and it's not like rigid copper where you have to create elbows everywhere to work it around obstructions. So from an installation standpoint, this was very cool back in the time. What we're looking at here is a polybutylene with plastic fittings. So we have plastic fittings at all the connection points. So all our T's and straight fittings are all plastic. This is known as a bit of a problematic type of piping. The house I'm in right now has actually had a pinhole leak. So the owner of this house, they had at their hot water tank, they actually had a leak already. And that's because PolyB has had a history of failure, and that's why we don't use it anymore. After they developed it, they put it out in all the houses. There was a lot of bursting at fittings. We had the pipe itself splitting, and eventually there was a class action lawsuit. So when we got into the class action lawsuit, the piping got a really bad name for itself, and of course it's no longer manufactured. So what I'd like to do is show you the 3 generations of polybutylene pipe and which ones to look out for and which ones are not as bad. So I'd like to do a screen share with you. Just let me know when it comes up. And we've got some photos to share of what the different types of PolyB look like. And let me know when you can see that.
There we got it.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is this is a very early generation polybutylene fitting, which is a compression fit style. So what they would do is these compression nuts, you would tighten them, and they would grip, or they're also called grip fittings. This is what you're going to see in a very old PolyB installation, probably very early 80s. If you see this type of pipe, there's a pretty good chance that you've either had failure already, they may have had a leak already, or usually you don't even see this kind of piping because the house has already been repiped. So this is sort of the early generation of the stuff. If we go to our next generation, that's actually the same stuff we're looking at in the crawl space here. So this is our plastic fitted polybutylene. So you can see at the T's where they connect, you've got these metal rings here, and they are a crimp fitting. So you'd have these plastic fittings. You would slide the pipe over top of the fitting, and with a with a crimp tool, you would crush down these rings, and they would grab onto the fitting and compress it down. So this is what we're in right now in this house from 1985. Now, if you see the plastic fittings, they're not great. They have a history of bursting and splitting. This would be sort of your high risk style as well. If you see this, you know, in your house, there's a pretty good chance that at some point in the future you're going to have to repipe your house. So we're going to go to the third style now. This is sort of something you see a little bit later on, more in the 90s. This style of pipe, which is the metal fittings. So the metal fittings were introduced in response to some issues with the plastic fittings, so they're a little bit more robust. And what I usually like to say is it's the least bad kind of PolyB to have. It's not perfect. There still can be some problems with it, but it's of the three. If you had to pick one, this would be sort of your top choice. So those are the three types of PolyB.
So that second one was more of a white color. Is that the PolyB isn't always just gray?
PolyB came in a few different colors. Sometimes when you have your service entry piping coming from the city, they did use some different colors. I have seen where it actually looks like a different product altogether. The best way to determine if you have PolyB is to take a look on the actual pipe. And I'm just going to grab my flashlight here and show you. You know, you may not be able to see it on the video feed, but over here we have, it's actually stamped with, we've got two letters, PB, and then some numbers, 2110. So PB 2110.
We could actually,
the PB obviously.
the light washes it out, but we can actually see it without the light on it. You can.
Oh, can you? Okay.
Out,
Yeah. PB 2110. So you've got polybutylene. You know, that's a dead giveaway if you see PB on the pipes.
Okay.
PB 2110, probably your most common stamp that you will see on these type of pipes. So that's what you want to check for. Usually the giveaway is that the gray plastic is present because modern piping, such as PEX, which is spelled PEX, they use different colors. They don't use gray because they don't want to get mixed up with the polybutylene. They don't want to look like a bad product. So if you see gray plastic or you see the PB, even if you have a different color, you know, if you're buying a house from the 80s or 90s, you're going to want to check for that stamp and just make sure that that you're not fooled by the color.
So are there any insurance problems with this product?
Yeah, there are a number of insurance problems that have recently gotten a lot worse. I've seen, you know, as a home inspector in the last couple of years, the insurance companies are getting more and more sort of resistant to insuring properties with it. For instance, if we were to buy this house and we went to get insurance, you know, one of the first questions they're going to ask us when they see the build date on the house is, what type of pipes do you have? And if I tell them I have original polybutylene, you know, they may ask us what kind of fittings we have. You know, do we have the plastic fittings? Do we have the metal fittings? If we tell them we've got the original plastic fittings, they may either quote us a really high water damage deductible, or they may actually request that we repipe the house in extreme cases. So I've seen both happen. Sometimes they'll grandfather the insurance from the existing owner, but you know, that's a best case scenario. You could run into insurance problems, so you should always check with your insurance company when you're purchasing a house with this type of piping about how they're going to approach it and if they want you to actually replace any pipes.
So what you mentioned, there's like splitting, pinhole leaks, fittings bursting. Any other problems with this? I guess some of this stuff can happen in areas where you're not necessarily going to see it.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, luckily this house is a rancher. It's a one-story on crawl space, so all the piping is pretty visible, and that's, you know, how they found the leak. But you know, in some cases you've got it behind drywall. You've got it, you know, sometimes it's in a concrete slab. So you know, unfortunately, if it is hidden, you want to be pretty careful with the stuff. Some of the other problems are, you know, sometimes they burst when these plastic hangers that they used to use. You know, a lot of these are broken by now, especially in crawl spaces. You'll see these plastic hangers, and the thing is just hanging down, and that puts a lot of strain on the connections. So we're not going to want to have these hanging down too much. We're going to want to resupport them at very least. That's really going to help us out a lot. one thing you're going to want to check is your hot water tank. You know, polybutylene tends to burst within the first maybe 20 feet of the hot water tank. It's very common for us to go in, take a look at a hot water tank, and go, you know, there's actually new piping just in that one area, and that's where the actual burst happened. And the concept there is that the hot water accelerates the deterioration of the pipe.
Thermal cycling just stresses it too much. The plastic can't take it.
Yeah, the plastic becomes quite brittle, you know, and the theory here is that since city water is chlorinated, the chlorine can actually break down the pipe structure, which when they developed it, they didn't take into account. So they should have, you know, figured that out, but unfortunately we found out the hard way.
Yep. So how do we repair this?
In most cases, you're going to want to repipe. You know, this house, because we're on crawl space here, this would be a pretty easy repipe. You know, we've just got this nice big crawl space we can go through, and replaced it with a, you know, a better product such as PEX. So PEX is sort of our newer plastic. We're going to see that in a lot of almost all new installations around here is PEX. And PEX is basically, it's a cross-linked polyethylene plastic, which has been in use in Europe for a long time, but we only recently brought it over here. And it functions very well. It's not subject to